Om Shri Sai Ram. Dear students, today we are going to study the fourth section of a hero, and this happens to be the final section as well. Before we start, let's go over the questions from the last session. The first question: narrate Swami's experience when he slept alone in his father's office room. Swami was terrified. He remembered stories of devils and ghosts. Even the night sounds frightened him. He decided it was safer to sleep under the bench. Even then, he was tormented by nightmares. He dreamt of a tiger chasing him. After some time, he saw a figure moving. He thought it was a devil that had come to grab him and tear him to pieces. In desperation, he hugged the figure and bit it as hard as he could. So if you write this much, that is good enough, because you are asked to write the answer in 5 or 6 sentences. No need to go into the details of how his friends scared him, about seeing the devil under the banyan tree. All that is not required. So if you write this much, it is good enough. The next question: describe in your own words Swami's dreadful experience when he was lying under the bench. Swami decided it was safer to sleep under the bench. So for this question, you start from the time when he crawls under the bench. Don't write the things which come before that. Swami decided it was safer to sleep under the bench. So he slept there. However, he was racked by nightmares. He dreamt of a tiger chasing him. He sweated with fear. He heard a rustling sound. He saw a figure moving in the darkness. He thought it was a devil and that it would pull him out and tear him to pieces. In desperation, he crawled out, hugged the figure, and bit it very hard. The figure screamed. Immediately, Swami's father, cook, and a servant rushed in and caught hold of the figure, who turned out to be a notorious burglar. As you can see, I made it as precise as possible. In spite of that, I wasn't able to fit it in 5 or 6 sentences, because you need to have all the points as well. So when you're asked to write an answer in 5 or 6 sentences, and if you get a question like this, try to make it as short as possible, but if you overshoot by a sentence or so, it really doesn't matter. You have to make sure all the points are there. Now let's go on to the glossary of the next and the last final section. Agonized, in great pain; thundering, very loud; tumbling, falling helplessly; amidst, in the middle of; burglar is a thief or a housebreaker. As you can see, all the meanings are given in the context of the lesson. The meaning, if you look in the dictionary, might be slightly different, but this is in the context of the lesson we are reading. Scout, a person who is trained in doing acts of public service. Notorious, famous for something bad. Not having a wink of sleep, couldn't sleep. Mollycoddle, be overly protective. So these are the glossary words. If you find any other words which you have difficulty with, please refer to your dictionary. Make sure you understand the meaning of the words. Now let's go on to reading the lesson. This is the first part of the last section of a hero. Ayyo, something has bitten me, went forth an agonized, thundering cry, and was followed by a heavy tumbling and falling amidst furniture. In a moment, father, cook, and a servant came in, carrying light, and all 3 of them fell on the burglar, who lay amidst the furniture with a bleeding ankle. So we saw in the last section how Swami was terrified under the bench, and while he was having all those nightmares, he suddenly heard a rustling noise, and he opened his eyes and he saw a figure coming towards him. He thought it was a devil or a ghost, and he thought this devil is going to carry me away or tear me into pieces. So before it does anything to me, let me protect myself. So what did he do? He hugged the figure and bit it as hard as he could. And actually the figure turned out to be a notorious burglar, and the moment he got bitten by Swami, he screamed, "Ayyo," because it hurt so badly, and immediately Swami's father, servants, cook, everyone heard in the next room, and they came rushing in, and they saw that this fellow, this thief, had fallen. He had tumbled down with the pain, as you can see in the picture, amidst all the furniture, with a bleeding ankle. So you can imagine how hard Swami must have bit him that his ankle was bleeding. So that is the first paragraph. Let's go on to the second para. Congratulations were showered on Swami next day. His classmates looked at him with respect, and his teacher patted his back. The headmaster said that he was a true scout. Swami had bitten into the flesh of one of the most notorious housebreakers of the district, and the police were grateful to him for it. So as you can see, this person whom Swami had helped catch was actually a very notorious, famous burglar. He had burgled in so many houses, and the police had not been able to catch him, and here a little boy, Swami, had been able to capture him. So everyone looked at him with respect. When he went to school, all his classmates, they looked at him with respect. Wow, he's done such a great thing. And his teacher patted his back, and the headmaster said he was a true scout because Swami had bitten into the flesh of one of the most notorious thieves of the district, and the police were very grateful to him for doing that. The inspector said, "Why don't you join the police when you're grown up?" Swami said, for the sake of politeness, certainly yes, though he had quite made up his mind to be an engine driver, a railway guard, or a bus conductor later in life. Now the police people were also super impressed. The police inspector told him, "When you grow up, why don't you become a policeman? Because you're so good, you're so young, so brave. Why don't you become a police?" Swami, of course, did not want to be a police, but just to be polite and nice, he said, "Certainly I will." But actually, what did he want to be when he grew up? He wanted to be an engine driver or a railway guard or a bus conductor. That was his aim in life. When he returned home from the club that night, father asked, "Where is the boy?" Here boy means Swami. "He's asleep." "Already?" "He didn't have a wink of sleep the whole of last night," said his mother. "Where is he sleeping?" "In his usual place," mother said casually. "He went to bed at 7:30. So that night, father, when he returns from his club, he asked his wife, "Where's he? Where's Swami?" And the mother says, "He's asleep." And father says, "Already?" And mother says, "He didn't sleep at all last night. He didn't have a wink of sleep." Means he hardly slept last night because of the burglar. So father asks, "Where is he sleeping?" And mother says, "In the usual place." "Sleeping beside his granny again," father said. "No wonder he wanted to be asleep before I could return home. Clever boy." Mother lost her temper. "You let him sleep where he likes. You needn't risk his life again." Father mumbled as he went in to change. "All right, mollycoddle and spoil him as much as you like. Only don't blame me afterwards." So as you can see, father is still not very happy that his son is sleeping beside granny. So little bit, unhappily he says, "Oh, he's sleeping beside his granny again. He's very clever. He went to sleep before I came home." And mother really got angry. Because he could have been killed by the burglar the previous night. And he's her darling son. So she says, "You let him sleep where you like. You needn't risk his life again. Let him sleep wherever he wants. Don't meddle with that." So father says, "All right, do whatever you want. You can mollycoddle. That means pamper him, spoil him, whatever you want. But don't blame me later on." Swami, following the whole conversation from under the blanket, he's lying under the blanket next to his grandma, felt tremendously relieved to hear that his father was giving him up. So he was very happy. There was a lot of relief for him that his father had given up trying to make him sleep by himself. So he's very happy to be sleeping next to his grandma. So as you can see, it's a very entertaining, easy story, easy read. I hope you all understood and enjoyed the lesson as much as I did. Now let's go on to the key points. The figure, who was actually a notorious burglar, screamed in pain and tumbled down. Father, cook and a servant came in and caught the burglar. Congratulations were showered on Swami the following day. His classmates looked at him with respect. His teacher patted his back, and the headmaster said he was a true scout. The police inspector asked him to join the police force when he grew up. Swami agreed out of politeness, but actually he had decided to be a bus conductor, a railway guard, or an engine driver. That night he slept as usual beside his grandmother. Swami's father commented on it, but Swami's mother got angry and said Swami should be allowed to sleep wherever he wanted. Father gave up his resolve to make Swami sleep alone. He thought it was useless. Nobody is listening to him anyways. So Swami was really relieved and he slept happily beside his grandmother. Now let's go on to the questions, comprehension questions. Question number 1, why were congratulations showered on Swami? Number 2, how was Swami honored by his classmates, teacher and headmaster? Number 3, why did Swami agree when the police inspector asked him to join the police force when he grew up? What did he really want to do when he grew up? Why did Swami feel relieved at the end? Number 5, did Swami start sleeping alone after the burglar incident? As you can see, all the questions are very straightforward, no trick questions. If you read the lesson, understand it, you should be able to answer the questions without any problem. So please answer the above questions in your notebooks before the next session. Again, make sure you answer them neatly, carefully, without any grammatical mistakes. Now, after reading this, it is a very entertaining story, I know, but is there any lesson we learn from it? In my opinion, there are a couple of lessons we learn from the story. Remember, when Swami was forced to sleep in the office room, he was racked by nightmares and he was so scared, he thought of all the ghost stories and all the devil stories his friends had told him. So that's a lesson we learn. When somebody tells us something, we should not just straight away believe it. Swami believed all the stories. That is why he was tortured in the night. So when somebody tells us anything, we have to make sure that it is correct before accepting it. And this is something we have to be aware now more than ever, because with all the WhatsApp messages bombarding the internet, we have to be very careful what we read and believe. So that's a lesson I think all of us can take. Another thing is, when you're going to sleep, it is always good to have good thoughts. Like Swami, when he was sleeping, he was thinking of terrible thoughts about the tiger, about this and that, about the ghosts, devils. As a result, he could not sleep at all and he was miserable. That is why it is always a good idea that when you go to bed, you should listen to some soft music or think good thoughts or do namasmarana or something like that, so that you can have a good, peaceful sleep. So that's the takeaway I have from this lesson, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Now, if you have the text, some of you might have the text. If you don't, you can download it from the website. I think it's called kseebsolutions.com. You can download the textbook and look at the text or print out the relevant sections. At the end of the lesson, it's on from page 10 onwards, there are some really useful exercises, very interesting exercises. So it's a good way, in my opinion, to spend your time. Instead of watching TV and playing video games, I think you can attempt all these exercises. Very interesting. I love them. There's one exercise on homophones. Then there's one about, they have given you some words which are all, the letters are all scrambled together. You have to unscramble them and make them into words. Then there's language function, which is a nice way of refusing invitation, accepting invitation. If somebody invites you to the house, how do you accept it nicely? And if somebody invites you, and you have to refuse. Don't say, I can't come. You have to say nicely, like, I'd love to come, but I have some other engagement. So you need to be able to speak well. So all these are very, very good exercises. Apart from this, there are some skits like dialogues which you can use as a role play. You can rope in your brothers or sisters or your parents and take the role. You can even don on some clothes and play the role, and you will really enjoy yourselves, I'm sure. And also on page 14, there are some nice skits. A man went to an astrologer. So you can be an astrologer, your brother or sister can be the person, and you can have a cute little dialogue between yourselves. This will be fun, as well as you get more confidence in speaking English. So I would strongly recommend to do all the exercises following the lesson. You could actually maintain another notebook just for grammar and composition. This will help you in multiple ways. So I strongly recommend that you use your time productively. Please do all the exercises at the end of each lesson. All right? Now, if you want to watch this film, it is available on YouTube. The website is there, and it's pretty good. It's in English. There are slight differences. I watched it just to make sure it is good enough. I enjoyed it, so I'm sure you would. It will be a nice recreation. It's a very short video, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. So please do watch it and enjoy. And I think that's it for today. Thank you, my dear students, and Sai Ram.